Welcome back to my YouTube Chanel Auto World Zone. So look, you want a good looking middleweight retro inspired bike in 2024 that doesn't break the bank? Well, I've got two great options here for you today. This one is the Speed 400, part of Triumph's new 400 platform that also includes the Scrambler 400X. Personally, I'd go for this one because it's that much better on the road. But then you've also got to consider the Royal Enfield Guerrilla 450. Now that one is born from their Himalayan 450 adventure bike, but just in a much more road-focused spec with a lower slung stance and smaller road-biased wheels. So look, I've ridden them both back to back today, and they're both very good, but each definitely has its strengths and weaknesses. And so here are 3 reasons to buy the Triumph and 3 to buy the Music Enfield. Now, I think it's fair to say that the engines in these two bikes are really quite similar. Both of them are around the 400 mark, both are liquid cooled, both are single cylinders, and both are about 40 horsepower peak. I think peak torque figures are pretty much similar as well, and so there's not a great deal to actually separate them. One thing I will say though is while they both vibe quite a bit when you get to sort of motorway speeds naturally, because they're both middleweight single cylinder bikes, I will say the Triumph is the bike that feels a little more smooth and refined everywhere below that point. So look, like I say, in terms of performance and also character and feel, they are very, very similar. But if you're looking for that slightly smoother ride, which is of course going to feel that little bit more comfortable, then I'd have to recommend the Speed 400. I will say as well, this is the bike when you get them out on the road that just feels a bit more engaging and a touch more sporty and lively. The Guerrilla has a bit of a scrambler or flat track inspired image, and so that means it's quite sat up in the riding position. And also you get things like those semi-knobbly look in flat track inspired tires. The bars on this bike are a little further forward, so you feel like you're a bit more over the front. And also you've got proper road focused tires with the Peli Diablo Rosso 3. And I think a slightly more flickable and agile geometry to it as well. It certainly seems to change direction that little bit quicker. I think also it's fair to say that one of the other contributing factors to that nimbleness, that agility, is the fact that it weighs a few kilograms less as well. Now for me, the third reason to go with the Triumph is the fact that while they're both built to quite an impressive price point, this one just feels a little bit more classy in the aesthetics and design, and also the level of finish is a little bit of a cut above. You can see there's lots of detail and stuff like the headlight and the brackets and some of the finishing parts and covers on the engine. And while the Guerrilla's gone down a bit more of a toy like vivid image that definitely catches the eye, I'd say this looks a little more classic, a little more timeless probably, because it inherits quite a bit of the inspiration for its looks from their modern classics lineup, which in turn inherits the looks from actual old Triumphs. Now looks, to be fair, are totally subjective, so there may well be people who actually prefer the Enfield, but for me the Tri's the one that I'd be more excited to open the garage to. But over to the Enfield, and like I say, there are some trade-offs with having this slightly off-road inspired image, and it does get the same frame, the same technology package, the same engine as the Himalayan adventure bike, so of course it's going to have some of that feel. But what I will say, with these risen up bars, it does give you a very open riding position that might be preferable for some people. While it isn't a sporty feeling, you do feel that little bit more sat open in if you're commuting or something like that. It might be the more natural position for looking at the traffic ahead. Then you've got to think about slightly taller riders as well. Perhaps the extra bit of height in the bars is going to feel more natural to you too. And so if you want that more versatile feeling riding position, or you like to have a very upright angle in your back, then this could well be the one to go for. I will just say though, although it is a little bit off-road inspired, I wouldn't say it's got any particularly genuine off-road capabilities. The high bars don't really give you a proper standing position, and so don't be fooled by the tires if you want an off-roader. Get the Himalayan. Now, another key advantage of this bike, and a good reason that you might want to consider it, is the fact that it feels a little bit more modern in terms of the cockpit and the technology. The Triumph gets a very simple analog dash with a bit of a digital LCD display set into it. But with this BIC, you get this really cool looking round TFT display, and not only does that give it that slightly more modern feel, but it also opens up a few more possibilities. One is that you can customize the look of the dash, and you can switch between a day mode or a night mode, for example. And also you can use this little joystick on the left hand switch gear to go through some of the settings and things like that. But perhaps chief of all of them is the fact that it Does mean you can get connectivity features, and so if you want something like turn-by-turn nav right here in the cockpit without having to mount your phone, then this of the two is the only bike that does it. Number 3 for the Enfield is the fact that while they do have their little strengths here and there, they are very similar bikes, and yet this one comes in that little bit less expensive. The Triumph starts at around 5,200, whereas this is around 350 quid less. And so it's not a humongous difference at this sort of $5,000-ish price point. It is a decent percentage of the total cost of bike, and it might well pay for some running costs or some new gear that you've needed, or insurance or something like that. I think for me, after having ridden them both back to back, the Triumph just about edges it because it's got that more lively feel to the handling out on the road, and I like that slightly more refined aesthetic package. I do wish, though, that it had that TFT display from the Enfield, because it's a real standout feature that increases the enjoyment and ease of using the bike, and I think it's especially impressive that they've managed to deliver it at this price point. Otherwise, I'd say they're very, very similar. That's the main thing that I've taken away from today. And so, as always, I'd love to know which bike you'd pick down in the comments below. I'll also make a playlist where you can see my full reviews of each of these bikes along with some of the competitors, so do give that a click if you're fancy having a look, and also hit subscribe if you want to see more of the latest motorcycle head-to-heads like this right here on Auto World Zone. A massive thanks for watching today, and we'll see you in the next video.